I think we're going to go ahead and get started here. We are back for week 5 of our precenting class, and we are going to start off with a few more psalms to practice real quick. Okay, so you gotta grab your psalm book. Somebody give me a psalm. Just name a psalm in the blue psalter. 13b. This is our psalm of the month here in Sterling. 13b. Simeon, since you opened your mouth, tell me how many...
Like
it is kind of like punishment. That's true. That doesn't encourage people to speak up. Okay, fine. Susan, tell us... Susan, can you tell us how many beats per measure?
There are
4 beats per measure, right? How do you know that? It's 4-4, right? Okay, Kelsey, can you tell us what the pattern is for 4-4? Right, down, in, out, up. Okay. Lydia, do you want to tell me the starting note or the key signature? Okay, what is it? Key of G. Good job. How did you know? There are different ways to know, but how did you know? One sharp is G, right? Okay, so that's a key we see a lot of, and that's one you'll hopefully learn quickly, is that 1 sharp is G. How did you know it wasn't E minor? Because it ends on a G. Good job. There you go. Okay. Now, Simeon, we're back to you. Which beat of the measure are we starting on?
3.
Beat 3. That's correct. All right. So it would be. So which beat in your beating pattern or your waving pattern would that be?
So you start. It's the out.
It's the out.
Start in, out.
Right. So if you're using my method for starting, you would get your note, and then you would do 1 beat like this, and then so you go, oh how long, Lord, because this is 3-4. So you go 3-4. Oh, sorry. You go. Oh how long, Lord, forget me? Will it be forever? Okay. Great. That's 13b. Okay. Somebody give me another psalm. Lydia, you want to give me a psalm? 34C. Okay. Oh man, this is going to be interesting. Okay, 34C. Allison, do I see that you have a hard copy this time? You have an American Psalter with you? Yes, that's great. Okay. All right. Does one of you online want to tell me how many beats per measure for 34C?
6 beats per measure.
6 beats per measure, that's right. Now, how did I teach you to do the pattern for that? Anybody?
I do it like 2-2.
Like 2.
I don't remember.
Yep, that's the way I taught as well, to do it in 2, right? So it would be, O sons and daughters, come give ear and learn from me the Lord to fear. All right. Okay. Coming back to here, Susan, can you tell us the key signature? What? The key of C, and how did you know that?
Well, no sharps or flats, and it also ends in keys.
No sharps or flats, and it ends, the last bass note is a C. Right, okay. Now, which beat of the measure are we starting on?
You're starting on the and the this and of the yeah.
Well, it's tough because it's 6/8, so it's not quite an and, I don't think, right? Because it's the 6th beat. Okay, so this is where my method of doing it in 2, that a lot of people do, is a little bit difficult because you would, and this is going to get into what we're talking about today. If you're beating it in 2, you don't actually have a waving beat to start on, right? Because you would go, oh sons and daughters. So you would do the 2nd beat, if that makes sense, which is really beat 4, because it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you would, if it was me, I would start it by going, oh sons and daughters, come give ear. So I'm not actually waving a beat when I'm starting to sing. So I would go, oh sons and daughters, come give ear.
Yeah. So
So that's a little bit of an odd one. Thank you, Lydia. Okay. All right. So let's do another one here. What's another psalm?
107. Let's see. I think it's A.
107.
A.
A. Oh, thank the Lord for He is good.
Yes.
Okay. Simeon, why don't you just volunteer? Do you want to start off with how many beats per measure?
3.
3 beats per measure.
Um,
Okay. Anybody online want to show us the beat for the waving pattern for 3? That's right. Liz is giving us the it goes down, out, up, right? Down, out, up. Yep, we got it. Allison's got it too. All right. So that's your 3 beats. Okay. What's the key signature here? Somebody want to give me the key signature? The key of C, and how do you know it's not A minor? Because it ends on a C. The bass ends on a C. Okay. Which beat of the measure does it start on? Beat 3. That's right. Okay. So which beat in your pattern is that? Up. So if you're using my method for starting, how would you start this one? Yep. Out is your first beat. So you go, oh, thank the Lord, for He is good. Okay. Let's do one more. Somebody give me another psalm. Actually, I'm going to give you one. Hold on. Let's do 38B. 38 selection B. Okay, who wants to tell me how many beats per measure for 38B? Four beats per measure, that's correct. Okay, and how do you know that?
Because it's 4,
4,
4.
4. So the top number tells you how many beats per measure. 4 beats per measure. What's the pattern for 4 again?
Down, in, out,
Down, in, out,
up.
up. Down, in, out, up. Okay? What about the key signature?
E minor.
E minor. Now, how did you know that?
Because the bass is on an E, and if it's not the key signature, it has to be.
Right. Okay, so the bass note is an E. The last bass note is an E. If you look down there on the bottom right in that tune of 38B. But what key signature is 1 sharp usually? G. We just had that. So you see a mismatch. You have a bass note at the end that says E, and then the key signature looks like G. And in our sort of shorthand way of doing this, that means it's E minor. And E minor, it does have the same key signature as G major. Okay. It is E minor. Which beat of the measure are we starting on? Beat 1. That's correct. Which beat in your pattern? Down. That first beat is always a down beat. Okay? So how would you start it if we're starting it with my method? All right, you take a breath on up, and you go, my desire and ceaseless wailing, Lord, unveiled before you lie. Which is a great Russian-sounding song. It's a traditional Russian melody. Oh, is this the Katushka one? Yeah, that's right. Yep. It's a very Russian-sounding tune. But you do that upbeat to give people the breath together. You go, my desire and ceaseless wailing. All right, that's some good practice. We are going to start here then for our material today on some review on starting and stopping. So if you have your handouts handy, week 5 handout. Is Zoom still working here? I just had something telling me it was signed out. Okay, yes, you're still there. All right. Okay, so we're going to go back over how to start and stop. This is pretty important, right? That's part of your main job. What are the things what are you trying to help us do together as the presenter? There were 3 things I told you last time. Start together, stay together, and stop together. They're all STs, right? Start, stay, and stop together. And so starting and stopping is really critical here. And as we were just talking about, I've told you that what I find to be helpful is to wave 1 beat before you want people to start singing. So as we just saw in that last example, if we want to start on the downbeat, I am encouraging you to do an upbeat first so that you can start together on the downbeat. Now, how can anybody tell me how I told you how to do the last note?
Not the way I did it today.
Okay, not the way that Susan did it today, apparently. I didn't notice, actually. You hold it out, and what is it?
The note.
The note.
The note. What note?
The last note.
The very last note you sing in the melody, right? You hold the last note out, hold your hand out, and then what do? When do you do this? Yes, you close your hand, but when do you do that? Whenever you want to. No, well, I guess technically you have that right, but when you're supposed to stop singing, right?
Like you've gone through however long that note is.
However long that note is supposed to be held, you hold your hand out, and then you close it off. So if we...
It's like my problem was that I think it was on 13. It was on 13. The one where, because the last measure, or the last note on 13B, the sopranos have the whole, but the rest of the parts, except for the basses, they move. And so I tend to want to direct the last 3 beats, but I should be holding it out and let the others sing.
Well, actually, I'm going to come back to this here in just a second. So 13B has a hard ending on it because the parts move while the melody stays still. And so I'm going to come back to this in just a second because I actually think this is something we need to, I meant to tell you about. So I'm glad you mentioned it because I forgot to say that. But if you go to a more typical psalm, let's say 23B, Psalm 23. I don't know, typical psalm. 23B, would someone be willing to take a shot at ending this? Here, somebody here in person. So we'll just sing The Quiet Waters by, I'll give you a note. So this is F. So the tune would be The Quiet Waters by. Who wants to take a shot at what that looks like to finish that?
Do we have to start at the? Is that where we're starting?
I was going to have you start on The Quiet Waters by, but if you want to start at a different spot, you can.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying the is at the end of it.
Right.
I guess I could try.
Okay, we'll sing along with you. So. So just start with the. Sorry, go ahead. Quiet waters by. There you go. Yep, that's right. So the quiet waters by. Because that one actually closes off on 3, right? It's 2 beats long. So bye. That's your more typical ending.
So you just have 2 beats.
Just have 2 beats.
I'm
Yep.
just holding it for 6.
That's okay. So that's a more normal ending. Is you just hold that last note as long as that last note is, and then close it off. And those are the basics of starting and stopping. Okay. Before I get to the special case that's on your handout, just so I don't forget, Susan just brought up Psalm 13b, which is our Psalm of the month here right now, and I actually thought it went really well today. But the ending is difficult on 13b. So if you have 13b in front of you, you see that the melody on how long will foes triumph over me, on me, you're just holding that for how many beats? How many beats are you holding me at the end of 13b if you're singing the melody?
6.
6 beats, yes. That's correct. So you have 4 beats and then 2 more in the next measure. And that long curvy line is a tie. I guess I haven't really talked about that. But that connects those notes to make them just one big long note. So your melody, and if you're singing the melody, you're singing a really long note. So that was an F. So, oh, how long will foes triumph over me? So, the problem here is that the parts are moving. If you notice down there below the melody, those parts are still moving, and the tenors have these quarter notes that they're moving, those black notes, and the alto and the bass have half notes they're moving. And so my general rule of thumb on this is that you keep waving your hand until the last part is done moving. So I would have done it the way you started doing it, Susan, today.
Okay.
So in this example, normally if I'm singing the melody, I would just, as soon as I'm singing my last note, I would start holding my hand out. But in this one, watch how I would do it. I say, oh, how long will foes triumph over me? Because that whole time that last time that I did this waving pattern, other people need to be able to see that to move the alto and tenor and bass parts. And then once we're all done moving, that's when I do this final hold the hand out. Different people do that different ways, but that's how I would do it.
When you're doing like that, how long are you holding it?
So you hold it. So in this case, I would go, oh, how long will foes triumph over me? 1, 2, 2. So I do, while I'm holding me, I do 4 beats like this, me, and then I hold that out for 2 beats to make a total of 6, right? Is 4 plus 2 6? Is that right? Okay, good.
No, it's 7.
So I would do 4 beats like this, and then I would hold out 2 more, and then close it off. That's an unusual case. I really enjoy those tunes where there's little moving parts and the harmonies. But that's an unusual case. Okay, another unusual case, or not that unusual, but difficult case, is in 73C. And this is the one that I'm referring to on your handout, the special case there.
I remember I used to like pick this all the time.
Wasn't it didn't we do like all the 72s that one international one year? Or was this an international song?
We did 72C. Was that Horn Creek?
72C at Horn Creek.
May Waving Grain.
Yes, May Waving Grain. Yes, that's the 72. Yep. No, so this is 73. So we're on 73C. So let's look at 73C. Who can tell me how many beats per measure? 3 beats per measure. How do you know that?
Because the top number is 3.
Top number's 3. 3, 4, it says up there. The top number's 3. 3 beats per measure. What's the waving pattern for that? Down, out, up. Down, out, up. Right? And then we don't need to worry about the key signature for right now. Which beat in the measure does it start on?
1 and
2.5, right? The and of 2. So if it's 1 and 2 and 3 and, you actually start on the and after 2, right? So you go 1, 2, and it's in between out here and up here that you start. And so functionally, it sounds like, this is a familiar tune, thankfully, which should help us, but, so it sounds like, yet constantly I am with you. So it's that quick bum, 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 bum. And this comes up in several other psalms. To this my prayer, oh listen, Lord. It's also, that's 102A. 69A and 83 are other ones that do this. So it's a decently common thing. So you need to know how to do this, where you have these 3/8 notes before you start your regular pattern.
No, I guess they do. It moves.
Right. Those ones move. It's not 3 in a row like 73 necessarily. So what's difficult about this is it's similar to what we were just talking about with the 6/8 tune that we did. You're asking people to start singing between beats, right? Because if we're in the pattern of 3 like this, you have to start singing in between the out and the up. And so some people, I'll give you a couple of different ways of doing this. And these are all legitimate, and I'm not here to tell you you have to do it one way. Some people do it by waving a fast measure of 3 before the slower pattern. So for this one, it would be, think about this because I don't do it this way. Yet constantly I am with you. So you watch my hand and see how it starts going half the speed after it starts, right? So we go, yet constantly I am with you. So that's one way to do it, is to do a little quick measure of 3. And did you say it's confusing? Because that's the way I feel too. Yes, that can be confusing to me. That's a fine way to do it, if you want to do it that way, to do a fast little set of 3. The drawback is people are going to think that this is a whole measure that first time you do it, and they're going to think you're going to keep doing it that fast. So to go, let constantly I am with you, like I'm not sure I can wrap my head around what that would look like. So that's one option, is just to do one quick one, and that works fine. I've seen people do that well, and that's no problem. The other one that I've seen done, and I think this is what Ron tells you to do in the Shawnee booklet on page 8. The other option is to do some other pattern that's not a regular pattern of 3, but do it quickly so that people know they're supposed to sing those beats, but it doesn't confuse them because it doesn't look like a regular waving pattern. So just that sounds kind of abstract, but practically speaking, I've heard this referred to as the Christmas tree method, where you go, yet constantly I am. So you do sort of a out, up, down. It's just a way of indicating to people you're supposed to sing these 3 notes together quickly, but you're not confusing it with this regular pattern that you're going to be doing for the rest of the tune. So you can do yet constantly. Ron has you do it with diagonal. So he goes, yet constantly. So he starts with an up. He goes up, down, but it's a down and out. So that's another way to do it. Go, yet constantly I am with you. So the benefit of that is it doesn't look like a fast measure, because it doesn't look like a measure. It doesn't have a downbeat. So there's an advantage in that. But it's...
I just tend to do my up really slow.
Just do a really slow up?
Yet constantly.
Yeah?
We know it well enough, I think people know, but I mean, if they didn't, that would be.
Well, so that's the good news with 73, is this one's really well known. And so it's one that you just sort of give them a note, and people are going to start singing it usually, and it'll, if you're in a situation where people know the tune, which we're very blessed that way here, that people generally know these tunes. But there are other ones of these that are more difficult that people don't know. My method that I usually use, it's not my method, the method I usually use is just to do your normal beating pattern and have people start singing between the beats. So I would just start with an out and start singing before I get to up. So I just go, yet constantly I am with you, or to this my prayer, oh listen, is that in 3 or 4? Prayer, oh listen, Lord, it's in 3. And let my prayer, so to this my prayer, oh listen, Lord. And I find that the most straightforward way. Okay, and so that's what I would recommend, but you're perfectly free to use these other methods. Whatever you do that can help people start together. But I find it simplest if your pattern is consistent, so you just go, yet constantly I am with you. Okay. There are going to be other times where it's not 3/8 notes beforehand. Sometimes you'll have just 1/8 note pickup. We actually saw that with the 6/8 one we looked at earlier. It's also true in 78H. If you flip to 78,
I've never heard of that one.
we don't sing it very often.
Whatever that one is.
78H, if you want to look at that. Pitch here. So, how many beats per measure for 78H? 3 beats, but which beat are we starting on? The and of 3. It's in between the up beat and the down beat. So the tune goes, then he struck down in Egypt's land. So what I would do is I would just do an upbeat and start singing before I get to the downbeat. So I would go, then he struck down in Egypt's land, their firstborn sons, their pride. So that's an unusual one. You don't have just an eighth note all by itself very often as a pickup. I would say, well, so in general here in this class, I'm giving you a lot of the basics, and you're still going to come across things that are difficult to do. And this is where it would be helpful. It could even be, if for those of you online, it could even be that you can connect with some of the people who've been in the class through the email addresses that are on that email that I send out. And you could even say, hey, I'm really struggling with this one, and just send it out and get some help from somebody. It's really helpful to have someone you can go to that knows something about this, even if they're not local for you. To have somebody you can go to and say, what's going on with this one? Can you help me out? Because there are going to be all of these there are going to be strange ones you come across. Okay, let's look at the fermata real quick. We don't see this very often in the Psalter, but the fermata is that bird's eye looking thing. It's on page 8 of your Shawnee booklet, if you want to look there as well. The idea, I think I maybe said this last week. Somebody brought it up. But the fermata means hold that note for as long as you want. So if we have a note here, and it has this fermata on it, that means normally, so if I didn't have this fermata, normally how many beats would this note get? 1 beat. That's a quarter note. It's a black note, right? That gets 1 beat, but then you put the fermata on it. How long does that go for? However long you want. Generally speaking, it's undefined. It's just a little longer than usual. I think by experience, usually it's maybe twice the length that it's supposed to be, but you just have to get a feel for it. And this is where your power as the presenter becomes so important. Or dangerous. Because your job here is to tell people when to stop with that note and move on to the next one, because it isn't going according to the normal beating pattern. And so the way that I would recommend doing this is waving it just like the last note of a stanza. So look at Psalm 100A. If you want to practice your fermatas, 100A is a great option, because 100A has fermatas at the last note of every line. I'm going to have you guys wave along with me here. And it starts on beat 4, that's right. So we're going to start without all P, like that, right? And watch that every time we get to the fermata, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold my hand out and then close you off and then do the next beat and go on with the tune. And so try to do that with me. All people that on earth do dwell, sing to the Lord with cheerful voice. Him serve with mirth, his praise foretell. Come ye before him and rejoice. Okay. You guys look good. I couldn't see you online if you were waving along, but
I was getting confused because we're opposite. So I could.
yeah, it is a little odd to do it at the same time as someone else when you're facing them, because you're not mirror image. That could be discombobulating. But the idea is whenever you get to that note, you hold your hand out until you're ready for people to stop, and then go on with your beating pattern.
So
Okay.
I have a question on that. This is something we probably haven't covered yet. But when it has the semicolon or period or comma or whatever, where you take a breath normally, I don't have a problem with cutting it off. But when it's supposed to be carried over, it's harder to cut that off and,
Yes.
and start back up. Because I had that one with, 25A today, and there was a carryover, but it's like, I really don't want to cut this off because we're not really breaking.
Okay, this is a good point. Okay, so on 100A, if you look at the end of the third line and the third stanza, or the fourth stanza, you see there's no comma, there's no punctuation at the end of those lines. So in the third stanza, it says, "With grateful hearts your voices raised to bless and magnify his name." And we haven't gotten into this, but generally speaking, it's when you don't have punctuation, it's good to keep singing, to show and to train your congregation to keep singing through those parts where there's no punctuation between the lines, because it's still one sentence. Because to bless and magnify his name is not a sentence by itself, and it's not a phrase by itself. So, or not a clause by itself. And so you want to keep going without breathing between voices raised and to bless and magnify his name. So the problem is that Susan has brought up is that when you're doing the fermata and you usually would close it off so that you can keep going, it's making people think they're supposed to stop singing and take a breath because you close your hand. So one of the ways I've seen people do this is to go with grateful hearts your voices raised to bless, and instead of closing off your hand, to do like a little keep going sign. That's really advanced. You don't need to worry about that if you're just learning, if this is all pretty new. But that is a question I've had before too. So hold it out for a little while, but then do like a little, like tell people to keep going so they don't stop and breathe. It doesn't always work right though, and that can throw people off. So I have not perfected that. Okay, if you want to practice the fermatas, 25A, 40A, and 100A are good examples. And if you're used to singing this psalm book, you know those are familiar ones that we sing all the time. So you do need to know how to do this. 25A, 40A, and 100A. I find fermatas to be the thing that still catches me off guard. After years of presenting, I'm just going right along, and then I realize there's a fermata, and I wasn't ready for it, and it still throws me off sometimes. So don't feel bad if it takes a little while. Okay, what I'd like to do, I'd really like to get a little more practice in this time. So I'm going to have you guys who are here in person, if you want to pick a psalm that you feel pretty comfortable with, I want you to start us on that psalm. I'll give you the pitch, but I want you to try starting us. You don't have to do the whole psalm, but just I want you to try starting us, and we can give you some feedback. Doesn't that sound good?
Some backbeat.
No, this is good. This is good. We do want to do some more practice. And in fact, this is the last week of content that I have prepared that's like stuff that you have to learn. And from here on out, it's basically practice. Basically applying what we've learned.
45 minutes of practice.
So next time is going to be just practice for the most part, or questions. So let's do some practice here, though. Pick a psalm that you feel pretty comfortable with, and I want you to try starting us. For those of you here in person. So, okay, Lydia's going to take an easy one. Which one do you want to do? 16D. Okay. All right, so what key signature is it? It's in C. How do you know it's not A minor? Because what ends on the C? So the melody ends on C, but the one you want to be sure you're looking at is the bass note, the bottom note. Because an A minor tune could end on a C in the melody too, but it's the bass note you want to pay attention to. The bass note is the C down there. It is a C, so you're all set. Okay, I will give you a C. We haven't gone over giving the pitch today. It's something we'll need to practice some more next time. Yes?
Do we need to get that pitch pipe, or are we set out?
We'll talk about that here in just a second. Yes. Okay, so how would you give us the pitch for this one? You do have to do it out loud. You will have to do it out loud for the congregation at some point. And they're not going to be able to read your mind. So that's okay. I got you. Okay. I know I'm throwing this at you at the last second. You didn't know about this. Okay. That's a C. Okay.
Is that right?
You were right. You did it first, and then you psyched yourself out. You were right. Okay, so you gave the pitch correctly. And then, so hold your songbook up. Everybody do this with her, okay? Hold your songbook up. Yeah, that's, okay, so you hold your, and so you would, what I would do is, what do I usually do? You hold your hand out, and then, preserve me, O God, for I'm trusting in you. Yep, that's right. I started singing it in the wrong octave there.
And you
Yeah, I
actually
was like, what?
have to sing the melody if you're up there presenting.
Yes.
You can't say no.
No.
Yes, you do need to sing. You have to sing the melody. Yes, you have to sing the melody while you're presenting. Why don't you try it again? Try it again. And Lydia, if you want to give us the pitch again. Okay. Preserve me, O God, for I'm trusting in you. Okay, that was good. Your pitch will need to be louder, so work on that. But you gave us the right pitch. You went, and then she gave us a nice beat out, and then a beat up, and we started on the up together. Okay, yes, Simeon.
Can you hum it, or should you say something that's like moving your lips?
So I usually hum it, but you can say, I've heard people do la 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 or da da da. If you're gonna hum, you have to have some diaphragm behind it. You have to give it some voice support. Yeah. So I usually do hum. I would do. Most people can hear that, except when it gets lower for me. But some of us do da 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 or la 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 la. You need to make sure it's audible. So you all have different voices. It may work differently for different people. Okay, who's our next victim? Who wants to pick a tune? Okay, what's up, Kelsey?
I'll do 23B.
23B, okay?
You guys are taking all the easy ones.
They're claiming the easy ones. You should have gone sooner, Simeon.
No.
Okay. What's your key signature?
Yeah.
F. How do you know?
Because there's one flat.
One flat is F. And how do you know it's not D minor?
Because the bass note is an F.
The last bass note is an F. Okay, so I'll give you an F. Is an
Can I
F.
just do down before?
That's what I would normally do. Yep. So, okay. The Lord's my shepherd, I'll not want. Okay, that's good. Okay, so Kelsey did a good job. I don't know what you guys can hear online, but she started with the F and just went down to the C.
It's weird to hear you doing it.
Well, it was the same octave she did it in. So, and then she gave us a nice beat out, because that's our breath beat, and then we started together on the Lord's my shepherd, I'll not want. Now, you're sitting down, and your sister is right next to you, so you don't have as much space, but you do want to make sure your motion is big enough, okay? Generally speaking, your motion isn't as big as you think it is. There are a few people who need to be told to tone it down a little bit, but for the most part, most people end up doing too small of a motion. So I would give yourself some freedom to let your arm swing, and so people can really see it.
On that one, I fudge at the end because I like to use descant, but I'm not supposed to.
Yes, you're breaking the rules, Susan. You're not supposed to sing the descant when you're presenting. Okay, Simeon, what do you want to do? You want to pick a psalm here?
I'm thinking. What are you doing over there?
Sorry.
All right, let's keep going.
It was Kelsey.
Let's keep going, guys. Here we go.
Let's do. Oh, never mind. Don't do that one.
Tell you what, I'm going to go through our practice and tips for the week, and then you be ready with the psalm here in just a moment, okay? Because I don't want you to have to pick something you're not comfortable with. Okay, for practice this week, I would really encourage yourself to practice by yourself when there's no pressure. It's hard enough to try to do this when people are looking at you and there's people counting on you. It really makes a difference if you take some time to do this by yourself. You don't have to do it a ton, but spend some time by yourself. But when you practice by yourself, do the whole thing. So you can do it sitting down, but it's best to practice. Actually stand up, actually hold your psalter. Imagine there are people you're looking at, and actually do the whole thing. Because I've been surprised how different it feels to do it something sitting down and how it feels once you actually have to stand up. Or if you've got the book sitting on a table in front of you instead of actually holding it in your hand. All those little factors are going to hurt you if you've only practiced other ways. And so practice standing up with your book in your hand. Do the actual thing as if there are people out in front of you. So that's important for how you practice. Now, I would encourage you to choose one psalm that you are ready to lead us in next week. Just in class here, okay? So we're not going to have, you're not going to have to do this in front of other people yet. We're going to do this for the people who are in person. We might be able to mute people and have people online try. I would encourage you to still be ready to do it so you're practicing yourself if you're joining us online. I think we would have to mute everybody except the person presenting. So you'd be singing them by yourself because of the lag time. But we all are your friends and we'll be encouraging even if you have to sing by yourself. So choose one psalm to practice presenting and be ready to lead us next week. I would really encourage you to pick one you know really well. Don't pick a hard one that you don't know. Pick a short one, but then really learn it. Like know it back to front. Know what key it's in. Know which beat it starts on. Like don't have to be figuring that stuff out at the last second. And try to have that ready for us next week. Okay, a couple of random tips. First of all, don't hold your psalter too high when you present. I get in trouble with this. You don't want it way down here either, but if it's up here like this, you're cutting off half of the congregation. Okay, I'm cutting off the Zoom people and Simeon right now. Okay, and people are watching your face almost as much as they're watching your hand, maybe even more. And so if they can't see your lips and can't see what you're doing with your face, they're gonna have a lot harder time following you. So you got to find that sweet spot where you can still see your book well, but you've got to be able to see the whole congregation over your book. So don't hold it too high when you're presenting. You also, when you're singing in the pew, so if you're not presenting, don't hold your book too low when you're singing in the pew. And encourage, if you're the presenter, encourage other people to pick up their books when they're singing. Because I see a lot of people, and I know when I was younger, and I would just put the book on the pew in front of me. And then, like, the presenter is way up here somewhere almost. Like, I can't see him out of the top of my head. And so it's best for you to hold your psalm book up here where you're looking at the page, but you want the presenter's motion to be in your vision, just the top of your vision while you're looking at the page, while you're singing. So if you're in the pew, and this is a tip that all of you can apply immediately, while you're in the pew, keep your psalter up a little higher than you would think, so that you've got the presenter and your vision up above.
Yeah, I think that's why sometimes they like the presenter to be up waving his arm at one speed and the rest of the congregation is going at slower speed.
Yes, this is one of the biggest problems for people not watching, is just that their books are in the wrong position for them to watch. So if they're holding their book down here, they're not going to be able to see you. So train people to get their books up, get their heads up. Okay, Simeon, you got one for us to finish this off for the day?
I don't have to do all of them, right?
No, just the beginning.
72B.
72E. Oh man, I feel like that would be a tough one for me to start on. More power to you. 72E. Okay, yep, you're right. It starts on the fourth beat. Do you know what key that is?
G.
G. How do you know that?
It's 1 sharp and the bass note is G.
1 sharp, which is G, and the bass note is G, so it's not E minor. Okay, so I'll give you a G. He will save the needy when they call. Save the poor and those who have no help. You started great. You had a fantastic start. You just got it started in the wrong pattern. But
Oh, wait,
it's 4. It's in 4. So you started doing it in 3. But you started you had a really strong start. We could hear you. You gave us a good beat beforehand, and then we started on the up together, and that went really well. Okay. That's what I want to cover today. We're going to be doing a lot of practice next week. I'm going to warn you now, we're not going to have a class the next 2 weeks after that. I think we are going to come back for another week, at least one more week of practice after that, but I'm going to be gone on vacation, and we're leaving to get to my in-laws' house after our afternoon service in 2 weeks. So I'll be here that day, but we'll be driving a couple hours up to Lisa's parents after this. So we won't be here for the presenting class that afternoon. So we'll have one more practice one after this, and then we'll have a couple of weeks for you guys to do lots of practice by yourselves, and then we'll have at least one more week after that where we'll do more practice. Any questions today?